Good hello everyone. In a previous video, I covered the so-called software glitch that accidentally turned thousands of foreign nationals living in New Jersey into registered voters. And in this video, I thought it would be interesting to take a look at the media's reaction. First, here's CBS News.
New Jersey's Democratic governor today announced that some non-citizens were indeed able to vote in recent elections. What can you tell us about that?
Tony, that's right. Governor Mikey Sherrill revealed about 6,600 non-citizens were accidentally added to New Jersey's voter rolls, and about 400 of them cast improper ballots in recent elections.
No, Weisha, casting those ballots wasn't improper. It was illegal. Using the wrong fork at a dinner party is improper. Foreign nationals voting in an American election is a felony.
The election error revealed here in the Northeast. New Jersey's governor tonight revealing more than 6,000 non-citizens were mistakenly added to the voter rolls in that state.
An election error, right. Automatically registering over 6,000 foreign nationals to vote isn't an error. It's a catastrophic failure of basic government competence.
We are learning hundreds of non-citizens in New Jersey were able to cast ballots because of a software glitch.
So a software glitch magically walked 400 people into a voting booth, handed them a pen, and forced them to cast a ballot. Got it.
She says officials became aware of the issue last week and that all 6,600 people are being scrubbed from the voter rolls.
But that's not what happened. The governor said that officials from the previous administration knew it was happening and did nothing about it.
It's unacceptable that no one in the previous administration brought this to light, demanded accountability, or took action when it happened years ago.
So did ABC News' Mary Bruce even watch the press conference she's reporting on? I'm guessing no, because the governor literally admitted that the previous administration knew about this years ago and swept it under the rug. That's not becoming aware last week, Mary. That's a cover-up. It is truly incredible watching the media try to spin a story in real time, only to be contradicted by the very politician that they're trying to protect. So during her press conference, Governor Sherrill made the following claim.
We have no evidence at this time that any elections were swayed.
And of course, when the media received the governor's talking points memo, they immediately repeated it like it was a protective mantra to ward off any actual journalism.
Now, the governor said they were registered as Democrats, Republicans, and unaffiliated voters, and there's no evidence that any elections were swayed as a result.
The governor says about 400 of those non-citizens actually voted, but that there's no evidence their votes swayed any elections.
Governor Sherrill saying she has no evidence that was enough in any election to sway an election.
That there's no evidence that any of those votes were able to sway elections.
400 of them actually voted in elections since then. It is a small number compared to the 7 million voters in New Jersey, and there's no evidence that that swayed any election.
There's no evidence that it swayed an election, which is political speak for we didn't bother checking. And as I pointed out previously, there are several elections in New Jersey that occurred after the so-called glitch that were decided by less than 10 votes, including this one for Trenton City Council that was decided by 1 vote. And you'd think that maybe, just maybe, that someone, anyone, on a cable news network might be slightly curious about whether a foreign national was the literal tiebreaker in an election. So much for journalistic curiosity.
There's 400 people who actually voted, and it didn't make any difference in the elections, but we should ensure all our elections are fair.
The issue was not whether there'd ever been people on the rolls or ever been somebody who had engaged in voting when they should not have, but that it did not change an outcome of an election.
Very minuscule, did not alter any election result.
400 people, it's not even a fraction of a percentage. It had no impact on the election.
Notice the subtle shift there. The governor said that there was no evidence at this time that it swayed an election. And even though the investigation is still ongoing, the pundits take that and declare it as an absolute mathematical fact.
And about 400 did vote in the 4 million New Jersey residents who voted in 2024.
So we're also talking about 400 people here. Let's look at the scope of the numbers here. We're talking about 400 people who, through a software glitch, were able to vote improperly.
There's that word again, improper. As if the voter simply filled out their ballot wrong or used the wrong color ink. And Senator Tim Kaine's reasoning here is like, yes, there were 400 bank robberies, but there were 4 million people in New Jersey that didn't rob a bank. So let's keep this in perspective. Pro tip, a felony doesn't stop being a felony just because a larger number of people didn't commit one. You'd think a federal lawmaker would know that.
The number of non-citizens accidentally registered to vote were a tiny percentage of the overall New Jersey electorate.
It's a tiny percentage, guys. It's truly amazing how quickly the mainstream media can pivot. 1 minute they're looking into the camera with tears in their eyes, telling you that every single vote matters and democracy is on the line. But then the next minute, they're waving you off, insisting that hundreds of fraudulent ballots are just a tiny, insignificant blip, and you should really stop asking so many annoying questions. But the reality is, the more you question this so-called software glitch, the more it looks like an absolute statistical impossibility. Let's do some math. There are approximately 9.5 million people living in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey issued 2.4 million non-commercial license documents in 2023 and 2.6 million in 2024. That means that each year, roughly 25% of the population either go to the motor vehicle office or renew their documents online. Now, according to Homeland Security statistics, there are approximately 590,000 green card holders residing in the state of New Jersey. So out of nearly 600,000 green card holders, we're expected to believe that over an entire year, that only 1% of them applied for a driver's license or state ID. Because what the governor is saying is that when non-citizens said they weren't eligible to vote, they were registered anyway.
When New Jerseyans applied for a driver's license or identification at the MVC, they were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway.
Let me explain something about software. Code is deterministic. It's not going to just randomly decide to work perfectly for 99.5% of the non-citizens who walk through the door. It's going to execute identically every single time. If the prompt was broken, it was broken for everyone. And when you factor in that there's an estimated 600,000 undocumented immigrants in the state who are also eligible to apply for driver's licenses and state IDs, the governor's claim becomes even more mathematically ridiculous. Therefore, the only way the state's 6,600 number is true is if an astronomically low number of non-citizens visited the DMV. In other words, there's no software glitch. It's just a desperate Democrat politician hoping you don't own a calculator.
The Democrat in office took accountability for it. This is actually modeling making sure that our elections are safe and fair.
If you look at this in full context, the system failed, then the system corrected itself.
Oh, sure, the system corrected itself. 400 federal crimes were successfully committed, counted, and certified, and the state government knew about it the whole time. If this is the system correcting itself, I'd hate to see what it looks like when it's broken.
So I think it is good that it worked. It happened, it was corrected, it was identified, and it shouldn't happen again. And they should make sure there's checks and balances in this area.
There was an honest mistake that was identified, corrected, and shared with the American people.
No, Kurt, it stopped being an honest mistake once the state knew about it and didn't take action for 2 years. That's not an honest mistake anymore. That's gross negligence at best and a cover-up at worst.
Elections have all kinds of things that happen in them. This is the process at work. The system caught the mistake. The system ferreted it out, right? They identified the voters. They did what it was supposed to do.
Elections have all kinds of things that happen in them. Incredible. Imagine using that defense anywhere else. Look, surgeries, they have all kinds of things that happen in them. Yes, I left my wristwatch inside your chest cavity, but the autopsy caught the mistake. The system ferreted it out. The process works.
The governor stressed that at this point there is no evidence that those 400 or so people who voted actually swayed an election one way or the other. For some context, Kamala Harris in 2024 won New Jersey by about 250,000 votes. About 4 million people voted. So what we'd be talking about here, even if all 400 of those people voted in the 2024 presidential election, it would only be about 0.01% of the vote in the state.
Notice how they always default to statewide presidential margins. Kamala Harris won by 250,000 votes, so 400 votes is just 0.01%. I'd like to remind Gabe Cohen here that when he was 9 years old, George W. Bush won the presidential election in Florida by 0.009%.
Not a single American vote should be diluted. And notice, Liz, how they keep moving the goalposts. First, they say it doesn't happen. Then they say it's really rare. And now they're saying, well, it happens quite a bit, but actually it didn't change the outcome of any elections. I don't know what the next shoe is going to drop, but I can tell you that the DOJ is taking this very seriously.
Harmeet Dillon hits the bullseye. Democrats and the media are doing everything they can to lower your expectations until voter fraud feels like a minor accounting glitch. Sure, non-citizens voted, but hey, it didn't flip the presidency. Why are you so upset?
And if modest or minor challenges emerge, such as the one that was disclosed voluntarily by the authorities in New Jersey, that it is immediately corrected.
So according to Hakeem Jeffries, 400 federal felonies is a modest or minor challenge. A 2-year cover-up means disclosed voluntarily, and 2 years after the fact means immediately corrected. Makes sense to me. What's your problem?
You know, you look at New Jersey, and, you know, that wasn't MAGA, that wasn't Antifa, that wasn't DSA, that wasn't Tea Party, that wasn't Democrats or Republicans. That was a computer that made a mistake.
It wasn't Democrats or Republicans. Actually, Juan, it literally was. A Democrat administration allowed it to register non-citizens for an entire year and then actively covered it up for 2 more years. Blaming a computer is just a convenient way for Juan Williams to avoid ever saying anything negative about the Democrat Party.
One, I think it's important that the current governor is actually telling the American people it was a glitch. I think the thing that is important is that it wasn't the intention of the voter to do something improper.
And this was a very unfortunate glitch. Importantly, it wasn't that individuals were trying to vote illegally.
It wasn't their intention to vote illegally. Right, because casting a ballot, it's just totally something you can do by accident. You trip on a rug, fall into a polling place, your hand spasms a few times over the ballot, and then whoops, you've just accidentally participated in democracy.
This is obviously not a great situation. She acknowledged that. But it also doesn't demonstrate that there's widespread voter fraud in New Jersey or anywhere.
In New Jersey? 6,600 non-citizens made it onto the voter rolls. That's okay. To me is pretty widespread voter fraud.
That's widespread? You just said it's widespread. So where's the proof that it's widespread?
6,600 non-citizens made it onto the voter rolls.
That is 0.006% of registered voters in the state.
So Abby Phillip can't defend the fact that thousands of people were illegally added to the rolls. So she decides to aggressively argue over the dictionary definition of the word widespread.
Yeah, 6,600 non-citizens made it onto the voter rolls. That's pretty bad. I think.
Hold on, widespread.
Yeah.
Hold on, widespread? Abby's clinging to that word like a life raft because arguing over the dictionary definition of an adjective is easier than defending 400 federal felonies on live television.
I think there are thousands of non-citizens on the voter rolls in New Jersey, and I'm pretty concerned about that. I would call it a widespread problem. I think the bigger problem here is that...
What's your definition of widespread, by the way? Is it 1%? Is it 2%?
I don't know, more than 100? I think it's a big problem. What's yours?
Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Abby Phillip is literally haggling over the acceptable threshold of felony election fraud. So I guess the question is, what exactly is the CNN-approved quota for foreign nationals casting ballots before we're allowed to care? I won't hold my breath waiting for an answer.
6,600 people who were inadvertently registered to vote, the vast majority of them never cast a ballot, and you're calling 400 maybe ballots cast by people who were registered as Republicans, as Democrats, as independents, as widespread in a state where there are 6.8 million registered voters?
Yeah, I'm with the governor of New Jersey on this. I think it's a pretty big problem.
That math doesn't math.
Actually, Abby, the maths perfectly. 400 illegal votes equals 400 canceled out legal votes from American citizens. Abby thinks that if you put a number next to a really, really big number, the crime becomes less significant.
Sometimes what happens is that when state systems are incorrect, people receive information and they are confused.
So to defend her narrative, Abby Phillip has to pretend that non-citizens are completely helpless, mindless drones who get a registration card in the mail and go, well, I guess I'm an American now, better go commit a federal felony.
They might have cast a ballot because they just weren't aware that they were incorrectly put on the voter roll.
They weren't aware that they weren't a citizen of the United States?
Come on, Scott Jennings. You know you're not allowed to bring common sense into a cable news panel. Also, to make Abby's argument work, you have to genuinely believe that 400 adults experienced spontaneous localized amnesia regarding their own nationality. Nobody is that confused, Abby. Not even your viewers.
What is your tolerance for American citizens whose valid voter registrations are invalidated by incorrect databases? What's your tolerance for that?
I don't have tolerance for any mistakes in the electoral system, including putting non-citizens on the rolls.
What about when an American is not allowed to vote when they are eligible to vote?
Textbook strawman argument. There has never been, nor will there ever be, a single case in American history where a legal citizen is improperly dropped from a voter roll and permanently exiled from democracy for the rest of their life. You literally just have to provide proof that you're eligible, which in the 21st century, you can do online. Plus, you also have the option to cast a provisional ballot.
I don't have any tolerance for that either. An American citizen should be allowed to vote, but American citizens are invalidated
why
when illegal
are you okay
aliens
then with the
are glitched onto the
administration
system.
Flawless logic. Abby wants you to panic over a hypothetical database error, while Scott Jennings is pointing at the actual burning building.
This is a convenient deflection for you. This is the worst possible story that could happen for Democrats right now regarding the debate over the SAVE Act. 6,600 illegal aliens on the roll in New Jersey that you know about.
Exactly. For the last year, the media has been arguing against the SAVE Act, a bill that requires proof of citizenship to register to vote, by screaming, we don't need it, non-citizen voting is already illegal. It never, ever happens. And then New Jersey accidentally steps on a rake and proves exactly why we need it. Look, the media can call it a software glitch, an honest mistake, an improper ballot. They can pull out a calculator to tell you that it mathematically doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, a state government system that automatically registers foreign nationals and successfully counts their illegal votes isn't a system with a glitch. It's a system working exactly as intended by the politicians who refuse to properly address it. Anyway, that's it for now. Head on over to my super cool merch store at don'twalkrun.shop. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time, if there is next time.